And welcome into the Countdown Show, Part 2, Week 2. We are the Fantasy 4-Pack. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined, as always, by Frankie Santiago and Matthew Vitale, as we run you through the remaining 8 games on this Week 2 slate. We got a couple of the 1 p.m.s left, and then just those sweet, sweet afternoon and night spots. And there are some more big games in here. So let's see if we can continue the trend of having home dogs. We're going to start off with the Las Vegas Raiders coming cross country to meet up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Say 47-point total. Pittsburgh Steelers are almost favored by a touchdown at home. This is going to be an interesting one for fantasy purposes, I think. The Raiders' defense didn't look great against the Ravens. I mean, they were serviceable, but they still gave up a fair amount of fantasy points. Flip side of the ball, Steelers didn't look great last week. So I think as far as, litmus test games go, this is going to be an important one because it's going to tell us, are the Steelers for real or not?
Yeah, for this one, I'm looking at this game one-dimensionally, where it's the Steelers' offense against the Raiders' defense, because I picture that the Raiders is like more of a lower-tier defense, and the Steelers should be a good offense, and they didn't look great against the Bills, so I want to see, was that the Bills playing well?
Sure.
Or was it just old Ben not being able to support this offense like he used to?
So here's my thing with this one. I actually think that the Raiders played fairly well against the Ravens. I watched, the highlights of that game, and what I didn't get at work, but no, they were getting to the quarterback a lot. They were forcing some turnovers, and the Steelers' offensive line doesn't look great. So I think that Ben's going to have some, trouble getting the ball out. If he can't find somebody who's open, we might see the same thing we saw last week.
Yeah, this one could. So that's why I say this is going to be an interesting litmus test game, because if the Steelers look bad against the Ravens, against the Raiders, that's a lot different than looking bad against the Bills defense, which is generally regarded as a pretty good defense. If they go out there and they struggle to move the ball again against a subpar, because I don't care if the Raiders played better on defense than they were last year. They didn't really do anything to improve their defense. They are still a subpar to average defense in this league at best. So if the Steelers can't make inroads against this team, that's gonna be I always forget. Does DEFCON go up or down? Which one's the worst?
I think it's DEFCON 1.
Yeah, like right now the Steelers are at DEFCON 4 for me. And if they struggle against the Raiders, maybe they move to DEFCON 3.
Yeah, their secondary is still so there's just too many people to throw the ball to for me to not start them. And like I said, if Ben can get the ball out, I think it's going to be fine. I'm actually more worried about Najee in this game.
Big Ben. Fun fact. I forget where I heard that. I was just perusing, looking at stats today. I forget where I heard or saw this stat, but Big Ben was one of 2 quarterbacks last week to not attempt a pass further than 20 yards down the field. Do you guys know who the other quarterback was, just out of curiosity?
Attempt to pass down the field?
Yes.
I got nothing.
My gut wants to go to Teddy Bridgewater.
It was Andy Dalton. So rarefied company there. Big Ben and Andy Dalton, neither of whom made a attempt down the field of 20 yards or more. I don't love that as far as how the Steelers. I think that, like you said, it's a function of the Steelers' offense not having time to get the ball out. So Big Ben had to take the underneath stuff. But I don't know. I as far as guys that I want to play in this game, for me, it's just Deontay this week, and I'm starting Najee if I have him, but I'm not excited to play him against this team. I think that this could honestly be a little bit of a trap game for Najee this week, just because of how we saw the Steelers play last week, and he might not have time to run behind this offensive line. Because this Steelers offensive line is worse than the Ravens offensive line. We all agree there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Raiders side of the ball, are you guys starting anyone aside from Darren Waller against this Steelers defense? I mean, I think you had Mr. 19 targets is an auto start, but
Yeah, nah, I'm just out on everybody else. I mean, again, I kind of feel like it was like an empty victory against the Ravens because this.
What about Josh Jacobs? Missed 2 practices this week. Let's assume he's playing at this point, though. Are you rolling him out there just because of, shallowness at running back, or
if I'm shallow for it at running back, I'll take him. But I'd rather start guys like Damian Harris and whatnot that were going in a similar range than him. Chase Edmonds, I'd rather start over him. Like, he is going into his game with some kind of injury or something that's holding him up, and he's going against one of the best front sevens in the league.
I think I'd rather start James Conner over Josh Jacobs, but
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so we're just gonna move on from this game to the next one on the slate here, because honestly, I don't think there's that much more to cover with the Steelers or the Raiders. Denver Broncos are traveling to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. This is a 45-point total, and we found another home dog, because the Jaguars are 6-point home dogs in this matchup, which is gross once again. I'm interested to see what this Broncos team looks like post Judy. I think that there's going to be plenty of points to go around on the Broncos side of the ball. I'm still not streaming Teddy this week, but Cortland Sutton's a start for me. Noah Fant's a start for me. If you want to start Tim Patrick or KJ Hamler and just kind of gamble that one of the two of them is going to inherit some of those lost touches, I'm fine with that. Is there anyone that you guys are honing in? Because for me, there's no one that I'm particularly honing in on. I'm just kind of fine with them all being starts. Is there anyone that you guys are particularly zeroing in on in this matchup?
Noah Fant's probably going to be one of my favorite starts out of this one. One I do want to just touch on, just for people to be aware of, with Cortland Sutton. There was a video that came out of practice that I just saw, I'm just remembering now, of him running just a sprint from side to side, probably about 20 yards, and he was limping about halfway through it. So I was seeing from the people that were reporting that it was a drill or something.
It was a footwork drill. He was intent. I saw the video that you did too. That video is misleading, if only because he was supposed to be stepping weird in that video. It was more about foot placement than actual speed, which is why he looked kind of slow and awkward.
Yeah, like I said, that one it gave me a bit of a worry when I saw it, but he looks like he's getting back there. It's just one thing to kind of keep an eye on for this game, since it's a 1:00 game, so you're gonna have to call the ball basically right away.
Yeah.
But no, Sutton should be fine in this one if he's not slowed up. But Fant's probably my favorite here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Fant start for me is, if I have to pick a favorite, it's that, because at receiver, with Judy out now, I think it's going to be one of the two, Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler, kind of taking
the Fant breakout season's back on.
But it's too early to tell where I think all those Judy targets are going. So, if I need a flex,
personally, I think they're going to Fant. I'm only half joking when I say that the Fant breakout season's back on. If I'm with you guys. If I had to pick someone that I like the most out of this game, it's Fant. But I do think that as long as Fant can stay healthy, he should be because he's an athletic freak. He can run most of the same routes that Judy can. Maybe not quite as well as Judy can, but he can at least do the things that Judy can do. I could see him having a big season now that Judy isn't there to eat up all those targets.
Who do we like on Jacksonville?
Next question, please. I don't like anyone on Jacksonville. This is a 45-point. I'll jump to you. But I guys want to explain the math here real fast. This is a 45-point implied total. That means that if this was a neutral line, each team is expected to score roughly 22 points. The Broncos are sitting -6 in this game, which means that they are projected to get at least 28 of the 45 points in this game. That's roughly 2 touchdowns to go to the Jaguars. You don't start Jaguars in this game. The Broncos are a really good defense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to jump into. Is that I'm not a huge fan of anyone. The only one that I'd be even speculatively throwing in my flex would be Vishka, and that's even then. I'm not feeling great. But a lot of the teams that I do own Vishka on, he is sitting on my bench.
Yeah, you didn't draft any Jaguars highly aside from James Robinson. If you did, why?
Yeah, like he was the biggest head scratcher this season. Where as soon as he took over the job, he was going in 2 rounds and 2 rounds only, the 3rd and the 5th,
and both were too far ahead of where he should have been going. Like I don't know. This isn't the gripe about where fantasy managers misplaced their trust in James Robinson round, but if you took James Robinson, that sucks. You probably have to start him. You shouldn't. I hope you went out and grabbed Carlos Hyde because he's the starter there. But outside of that, like I'm sitting. You didn't draft any of these Jaguars highly. If you drafted them at all, you should have other options on your roster that aren't Jaguars players for this week. Let's jump to the 4:00 games here. Move to a matchup that I'm a little more excited about. Another obscene total too. 51.5 point total, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 12.5 point home, almost 2 touchdown home favorites. It's a big one right here. Yes, sirree. I think
it's going to be worse.
Yeah, I think this is going to be Matt Ryan couldn't stay on his feet last week against a fairly pedestrian Philadelphia defense. This Buccaneers defense is no joke. I guess let me lead in with the Falcons side of this for you guys. Obviously, you start Calvin Ridley. Anyone on this offense that you guys feel comfortable starting aside from Calvin Ridley this week?
Honestly, you're probably gonna have Pitts might be a have to start just because of where you drafted him, but I'm not going to be happy about it because they should be able to contain. The thing is, he's going to get passes. Like that's the reason why Pitts is at least a start for me because tight end is garbage, and unless you work the waiver wire after you saw last week, you picked yourself somebody up.
Yeah, but Tampa Bay's got good linebackers.
Honestly, if I have Pitts, I don't care how high I drafted him. I might go look for a streaming tight end this week.
Right, but what I'm more
maybe a guy on the other side of the ball.
Right, but I was saying is Gronk was a very rostered tight end coming out of the draft, and people didn't drop him after week 1.
Yep, that's right.
So you had to get lucky that he didn't get drafted at all, and then he didn't get picked up after this or because we're past waivers now. So if you're sitting
hopefully you're being proactive about this.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Is if you got Gronk, start him. That's an easy one. If you got Gronk, start him. But after that, maybe you start Tunyon and hope for the bounce back game. I'm not too happy about that start, but there wasn't a lot of great streamers.
Who are some guys that you would feel comfortable? So like you said, Frankie, Pitts is gonna have volume at least. He should. Oh, sorry. Like you said,
that's what
there should at least be volume there for Pitts this week because of the high total for the game. The Falcons are gonna have to throw. You cannot run against this team, especially not when you have old ass Mike Davis back there. But
oh yeah, I'm fading both running backs by the way. And by that I mean
that's easy.
Any running backs.
Fade. Are you starting Jared Cook, who had a good week?
100%.
Mm-mm.
So you start Jared Cook over Kyle Pitts, Frankie?
Yeah. Did you guys watch the Cowboys game?
I did. I would start Jared Cook over Kyle Pitts this week as well because I think that he showed he had a good connection with Justin Herbert last week, and that's a nice high total game. So there's gonna be passes to go around. Would you start Austin Hooper?
I like Hooper this week.
Yeah, Hooper. I'd go with him.
What about Gerald Everett?
I want to like Gerald Everett, but he didn't get enough work for me to.
It's another high total game though.
But he wasn't getting used. That was the issue. Russ still looked good, and he wasn't going to him.
Yeah, that's probably my cutoff there. As far as, actually, you know what? let's see who else is out there. I mean, I wouldn't.
I was intentionally just kind of picking, guys that are in fairly high total games, because they're all further down, much further down the board than Kyle Pitts, but they should see a pace up opportunity that other ones won't. Tampa Bay side of the ball, what are you guys doing with? I know the easy thing to say is just fade their running backs, but like this is a really good matchup. Personally, if I had to make a recommendation, which is what we do on this show, I would say start Uncle Lenny and just be prepared for it to not work out.
Yeah, I feel like that's the call you have to make after what we saw last week. Leonard Fournette should be a start. Ronald Jones is a plug your ears and hope for a miracle flex start.
He's like a maybe don't watch the game type start.
And as much as I wanted to like Gio, because the math was there that pass catching running back, Brady's always used James White.
I think Gio still is going to carve out a role on that team. I think it's going to take a couple weeks.
Right.
According to Bruce Arians, they're all starters. So if I have to pick one, I'm actually the opposite of you.
God, that's like the Bobby Valentine. We have five number ones on this team.
Yeah, I'm actually the opposite of you. I'm gonna start Rojo here and not watch the game.
Right, because you like to ignore what the coaches are telling you and just trust your
heart.
I was gonna say,
he got out of the doghouse and he's coming back in the night. It's a bounce back game.
Now, are you starting? I'm talking are you telling the fans to start Rojo over Lenny? Or are you I'm starting Rojo, so I'm trying to will this to work?
No, because I'm not starting Rojo.
I thought you were just talking about you were going to roll out Rojo in your...
No, I was. I decided that I like Sterling Shepard more this week. So.
Okay.
Frankie's like, I need to speak it into existence
That's
or it won't happen.
That's what I thought he was going for. Is
No. Rojo's on my personal bench this week.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like I said, I lean towards Uncle Lenny because Bruce Arians has told us what he wants. Brady likes Leonard Fournette more. Leonard Fournette was their guy down the stretch. Leonard Fournette was their guy in the playoffs.
He was their guy pass catching, yeah.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette is the guy with a longer leash. Ronald Jones goes out there and doesn't jog to the huddle quickly enough and he gets benched. Leonard Fournette can drop, 3 passes in a row and he's fine because they trust him more for whatever reason. So
I am prepared to be wrong in a week 2 matchup that should be a blowout.
Yeah, well, but I do think that there is value in picking the correct running back in this one because whichever one does get the run in this matchup is probably going to have a pretty good game.
Mainly because of the fourth quarter.
Yes.
They're just going to pound the rock to finish this game out.
That's also the other reason why I would lean Leonard Fournette in this one is that's more his shtick.
Yeah.
So I would recommend Leonard Fournette in this one if you have to. He's definitely more of a GPP start than a redraft start, but
no, I mean
times are tough in redraft for running backs. So
the depth of the position is not great. I have no issues if you want to roll Leonard Fournette as your flex.
Sure,
I think there's garbage time points aplenty here.
Do you start Mike Evans this week?
Yes.
Okay.
This is going to be a week where it's going to be another week where I think 2 passing options shine, 1 passing option gets left in the dust.
This is also the Mike Evans style of do nothing, disappoint fantasy owners, get benched,
explode.
Yeah.
So no, he's one I like for the bounce back. I think Gronk's going to be the one that kind of fades a little bit, but he's still just this is just too juicy of a matchup to not start Gronk.
I think there's going to be
that volume is going to come back to earth.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're telling me he's going to get 4 or 5 passes, I'm fine with that.
Sure,
easily one could go in the end zone.
Minnesota Vikings, Arizona Cardinals are the next game on the slate here. 50.5-point total. Cardinals are 4-point home favorites in this one. Vikings, I think that's honestly kind of generous with how they played against the Bengals last week. I don't know. I'm looking at this game, and I get where Vegas is coming from with how they set this line. The Vikings on paper have a very high-powered offense, but they didn't seem like they were playing up to that standard last week. So something seemed off. Otherwise the Bengals wouldn't have been able to get up on them in the first place. I do think that this game is probably going to hit its total or go over its total, but I don't know that it's going to be as close as they're sort of giving them credit for here.
Yeah, the Cardinals in the direction they should be moving, they should be able to blow the doors off the Vikings with their just how much offense they can produce compared to the Vikings.
Yeah.
And then the Cardinals offense looked good last week, so I think that's going to be the difference makers. I think there's going to be a couple of key stops that shut down the Vikings, and the Cardinals will capitalize and won't look back.
So Chase Edmonds and James Conner both got some usage last week. Are you starting both of them in this matchup?
I feel more comfortable with Connor.
I kind of lean Edmonds just because he's a little more of the passing down guy.
I mean, James Conner didn't have the average, but he got 16 attempts last week. But
yeah, honestly, I think you can start both.
Edmonds was the more productive back, at least.
Right. Like I said, once again, with the dearth of running back, with the lack of running back that's out there, I think both of these guys are a start.
Sure.
And especially a high total game like this.
Do you start Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk in this one, or are you backing off of one or both of them?
I'm probably gonna lean towards Kirk and just hope that the experience has finally matured and he can carve out a role. Rondale Moore, I'm probably fading in this one.
He did have a nice rookie debut. I mean, it wasn't special, but it was fine.
I mean, I'm on. If I have to pick one, it's gonna be Kirk. But I don't have a problem starting Moore. I'm like, if I need to flex him, I'm 100% confident that. I mean, because it's not. I mean, we're going to see a lot of just plays in general in this game, which is why, I mean, I'm more confident in Connor, but I don't have a problem starting Edmonds. I think that, they're going to run a really fast tempo offense. There's going to be a lot of plays run. So I think there's upside for everybody against this Vikings D, which, I mean, I think that's why the Bengals game last week was so close with them, is because the Bengals have a lot of weapons too. And, I mean, they want to run a quick offense with Burrow.
Sure. Vikings side of the ball, obviously Kirk Cousins is one of our favorite streamers of the week. Mm-hmm. You're starting Jefferson, you're starting Thielen, and that's kind of, I mean, obviously Dalvin Cook as well.
Benching Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, you're benching Dalvin as is. I didn't even
this
think
is the bench your first round pick show.
Didn't even think it was worth mentioning because, it's just such an obvious
Saquon
pick.
bench, Chubb bench. He's going to run the ball too much. He's going to break his legs.
No, you never bench Chubb. Start him on his bye week. He'll still get you more points than Kerryon Johnson.
You take that blasphemy back. You go, that is a low blow, sir. Just because he got a team that's good and the other one landed on the Lions.
Oh man. He is officially a journeyman running back now. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. He's on the Niners.
Yep.
He's gonna be the starting running back.
He is officially a journeyman running back.
I can't wait for him to take the starting job just so I can see Frankie cry big tears.
So I don't. Just a quick sidebar because I think this is a hilarious prospect. I don't think this is going to happen. But what if he does take that job and finally stays healthy? And he's just the only, because San Francisco 49ers, that stadium is built on a old asylum or Indian burial ground or burned down orphanage or something haunted. It's something haunted is under that stadium and it's injuring all of their running backs. What if he just goes out there as the only running back who ever stays healthy for them?
I mean, all right. So 2 points. One, it's clearly because it's San Francisco, so they're so close to Alcatraz. That's just bad juju right there.
Oh yeah.
So you're getting that. Just the Bay is just blowing all the ghosts into the stadium. But no, on a serious note,
is that how ghosts work right now?
They can carry with the wind. No, but on a serious note, if that happens, if Kerryon Johnson takes this job, especially because it would make Frankie cry, because just to let the listeners out there, he just used 100% of his fab on Elijah Mitchell.
Can't take it with you.
To be clear, we do not ever recommend using 100% of your fab
unless it's the end of the year.
Unless it's the end of the year, or someone or that one year where Brandon Cooks ended up on the waiver wire somehow. It was when he was good.
Hey, you guys hush your mouth. I used 100% of my fab on Mike Davis last year, and I made the playoffs because of it.
Generally, if you think you need to blow your proverbial load, it is better to use like 95% because you want to keep a few bucks in case you need to bid on a defense.
Yep. If you got to throw a buck just to beat some, if you have kickers in your league, it's just good to throw a buck just to beat someone out for a prime start.
Because otherwise you are doing the $0 bid, which is always sketchy.
Yep.
You're like, man, hope someone doesn't throw a single dollar against me.
But yes, if the ghosts blow in the correct direction and Kerryon Johnson takes over that backfield and just is legit, I am buying just 100%. I will buy his jersey.
You have to buy a 49ers jersey.
Vitali,
Niners jersey.
Vitali, if he does that, I will buy the jersey for you.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. If Kerryon Johnson gets the job because of ghosts, Frankie buys.
Blowing on into the stadium.
We offer serious, deep, insightful.
Can we talk about the next matchup? Because I'm really excited for this one.
Serious, deep, insightful knowledge here on this show. Like ghosts are gonna give Kerryon Johnson the starting role.
Yeah, we're a ghost show that also sometimes talks about football.
Dallas Cowboys are looking to disappoint their fans again this week, trying to go 0-2 to start the season, and the Chargers are just the team to do that. They're going out west to visit them. Chargers are 3.5-point home favorites and a 54.5-point total. If you told me that this game was going to have double the fantasy points scored that the two teams tonight scored, I'd believe you. I'd be like, sure, I could see it.
Stack your Chargers this week because the Cowboys secondary looks awful, despite their turnovers against the Bucs, which I think that was more on Brady than us. We kind of got lucky with.
Yes, it was. It was definitely more on Brady than you guys.
We got lucky with a couple of bounces, a couple of bad throws.
Yeah, that was the Buccaneers not catching things, not your defense forcing picks.
I mean, obviously Keenan Allen's a lock to start because he's Keenan Allen. I'm very confident starting Mike Williams here because I know how bad we are against those outside threats.
I'm never confident starting Mike Williams, but I'm glad you are.
I am. We struggle so hard against the deep ball.
When did you get signed with the Cowboys?
Last week. Filed for free agency this year,
to play cornerback for him.
Toss.
I'm never confident starting Mike Williams because every single play that Mike Williams runs is a chance for him to never step on the football field again.
Actually, I was going to say he looked great last week with some of the catches he was making, but also now that I'm looking back at it in my head, I agree with everything you're saying. He was going up and just I was worried.
Some players play to get injured, like Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
No, I'm. You know what? If I have to, I'm rolling the dice here on Mike Williams because look at that total.
No, Mike. I'm fine with a Mike Williams spot start this week. I think he's probably one of the better, flex or wide receiver 3 plays that you can get this week because of his obscene. I was guesting on Mike Fontaine's show today, and this was one of his start sits, Mike Williams and Mike Pittman. And I was talking about the fact that it's like, Mike Williams offers you rare upside from a wide receiver 3 that any given week, because of how he plays, like he plays a dangerous game. He goes out there and he leaves his entire body on the field to make these catches, but he's humongous and he's very athletic. And when he doesn't, catch a ball, come down and explode his hip or something, if he makes one defender miss, he takes it to the house. Any week he can be a slate breaking play.
Yeah.
So he's a fantastic play in a pace up matchup like this, where you could see him getting 3 or 4, maybe 5 of those plays over the course of the game. He breaks 2 of those. Suddenly you've got a 25-point week from a guy who's your wide receiver 3. Yeah. So I love the Mike Williams play. Are you guys considering starting Josh Palmer in this one? I honestly don't know what he did last week, but if memory serves, he had a fairly quiet rookie debut.
Yeah, I'm good with start. Well, I'm good. I'm good in the sense that I'm not starting.
Yeah, he did not do much last week. One catch, 1 target, 17 yards.
Yeah, same reason with Rondell Moore, where it's like I'm already anti-rookie wide receiver, and then when they have a quiet start, I understand like that's a good way to get yourself into like the Justin Jefferson last year situation, where it's you keep fading the rookie and then he pops, but he's not a guy that I think is highly touted enough that I'm willing to buy in now. Like he's he's one I'd rather see him pop and then I'd try and get him on my team later.
Honestly, he's somebody where if you have a free bench spot because of how high this total is this week, he could easily end up on the waiver report on Tuesday. He's someone who I might try and stash if I have an open bench spot that I don't particularly need in case he pops this weekend, because he was talked about in camp as being a guy who could establish himself as the number 3 on this team, and that moves into the number 2 when Mike Williams gets hurt. So like he's someone who I wouldn't mind stashing if I have an open bench spot. But yeah, I'm with you guys there. I don't think I would flex him this week unless I'm very desperate.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys, you're starting your studs, and that's basically their whole team. So, yeah, man, it's so nice being able to just be like, you start your Cowboys, and that's all of them.
Yep.
Pretty deep down the depth chart. Cool. Yep. Actually, I will say he's probably going to be a chalk receiver play this week, but was it Cedric Wilson, I believe, is a good DFS start this week if you're trying to stack this game.
He actually didn't look bad versus the Bucs.
No, and with Gallup out, the targets are probably going to go to him, and he's fairly cheap on DK this week. Like I said, I expect him to be at least cash chalk. But if you're trying to build out some Dallas stacks in this game, or you need a cheap bring back for your Chargers stacks, he's not a bad spot to look. Because obviously the rostership percentage for the Cowboys is going to go to Amari and CeeDee Lamb first.
Yeah.
So even though he might be chalk, he might be like 12-15% chalk because there are better receivers on this offense.
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans are going to visit the Seattle Seahawks in another really high total, 54 points. We are looking at the Seahawks being 6-point home favorites in this one. This one's actually a game where I'm probably pounding the under in this game. I mean, we've got two offenses here who both want to play a ground and pound, control the clock type game. Pete Carroll talked about how they need to get back to that this offseason. That's always been the Titans' game plan, is control it with Derrick Henry. I'm surprised the total in this game is this high, especially with how the Titans looked last week. They looked disjointed. They looked out of sorts. I expect both these teams just to feature their running backs heavily. I think it's gonna be a slow game. I think it's great if you're a Derrick Henry or Chris Carson manager.
I'm honestly still a little on the other side because the Seahawks, yes, they want to emphasize the run, but they showed us in week 1 they're still gonna follow the same pattern they have always followed, with the first few weeks as being a very air it out team and leaning on their quarterback to get it done, and then cooling as the year gets on and pushing more towards that run style, run first style.
Well, no, but that's not what they did week 1. Yes, Russell Wilson threw for 4 touchdowns, but he only threw the ball 23 times.
I mean, we know that's the Seahawks style, is low total. I at least when it comes to the total and the pace of this game, I still think it's gonna I would not be shocked if it hits the over on this one, just because if the Titans figure their offense out, I can 100% see the stereotypical Russ throws 25, 26 times, fair amount of rushing, but it's all very highly efficient. That's the big thing with this one, is the Titans and the Seahawks have to get back to have to play very efficient to hit this total, as opposed to the last one we just spoke about, where it's just going to be volume of attack.
Yeah. Throw.
I just don't see them hitting the total.
There might be 100 passing attempts in the Chargers-Cowboys game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm pounding the under on this. I just don't see them hitting that total at all. It's, these are very run-heavy teams.
That's almost 4 touchdowns a team.
I mean, I still think there are going to be shots down the field to, AJ. Speaking specifically of the Titans now, there's still going to be those shots down the field to AJ Brown, because that's how he's always made his hay.
Sure.
And Julio Jones is there now too. So
yeah, it's pound the rock with Derrick Henry, play action Derrick Henry, shot downfield AJ Brown. Yeah, and
with the Seahawks, I think they're going to be able to, run a little bit better against this Titans team than they did against the Colts.
Yeah, and I'm probably not sitting any of the big players from this matchup. Yeah. I honestly, if I was looking for someone to sit in this game, I'm fine streaming over Tannehill in this one, because I don't expect this total to hit, or this game to hit its total, and if it does, it's going to be on the Seahawks side. I think. I'm fine streaming over Tannehill, who I could see having a very mediocre week this week. I wouldn't sit any. You start Russ, you start DK, you start Lockett. I think you start all of your important Titans, but
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't think Tannehill's gonna have a bad game. I think he's gonna have a bad fantasy game because I think it's gonna be a very pedestrian on maybe like 250. Maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, but
sure.
I don't see him blowing the doors off this thing.
I mean, would you guys start Kirk Cousins over Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, 100%. Not even thinking about it.
Yeah, probably.
Big Ben over Ryan Tannehill?
Nah.
Nah.
I mean, he's like the second darling streamer of the week.
Nah.
Jameis Winston over Ryan Tannehill?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so you just don't trust the Steelers then?
Yes. I am.
Okay.
I'm after I watched that game last week. I am not comfortable right now.
So that means that you guys are in the same boat, at least as far as the Titans go, where you're lowering expectations for Tannehill in this matchup.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, hey, I'm just trying to reach a consensus here, but don't take that to mean that you should sit AJ Brown or Julio Jones. They're both far too explosive players to ever risk sitting in a game that could hit a high total.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Sunday night game here, Kansas City Chiefs are going to Baltimore. Baltimore are home dogs again. This is another really high total. Wow, the last 3 games have all had 54-plus totals.
Yeah, every 4 o'clock slate is 50-plus points.
This is going to be... I guess at least we're not going to be lacking for fantasy points this week. So we've got the Kansas City Chiefs that are they're going into Baltimore favored. I don't see how they don't run away with this one. Just judging how the Ravens looked against the Raiders last week, I don't see how they don't just go in and dominate this game from end to end.
Yeah, I think that. We watched the Browns game last week at the bar, and
yep.
Just based on what they were doing to KC, KC's pass defense has been, they've had their good days, they've had their bad days. Their run defense is not super great, and we have 2 teams that one wants to run the football. Tyson Williams looked fine. I think he's going to have. Maybe the same day.
To his credit, I thought Tyson Williams looked very good last week. He looked explosive. He was making decisive plays with his legs. I was honestly surprised when the Raiders went away from him for Latavius Murray in that game because he looked so good. And to Murray's credit, Murray also looked good. But
yeah, I think that both of those guys are gonna have kind of the same day that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt had last week against the Chiefs. And on the other side of the ball, it's Pat Mahomes. He's gonna get his touchdowns. He's gonna get his yardage.
Yeah.
We know where most of it's gonna go between Kelsey and Hill, and I think that this game in general is gonna be just a fantasy point bonanza. I don't think we're gonna see the Sammy Watkins show again, but I think Marquise Brown's a fine start against this Chiefs secondary. Maybe flex play.
I do believe if I recall, Hollywood's been hurt this week, so this actually might be another Sammy Watkins week.
Yeah, Sammy's actually one of my favorite plug-in flex plays here, or wide receiver 3s, just because they're gonna need to.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown missed practice today, so.
Yeah, Sammy's one of my favorites. I'm surprised how many times I've found that he was just out there and available.
It's because no one trusts him.
I know. I understand this. But, the Chiefs are going to score. The Ravens are going to have to throw to keep up the pace unless they get the ball first and can grind down the tempo, which I don't think is going to happen because you can't really do that to the Chiefs.
Right.
The Chiefs can just score at will. So the Ravens are going to have to play up-tempo. That plays to Sammy Watkins because then that's a free way to just keep the tempo going is you just throw a 50-yard touchdown at him.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Sammy's good for, and that's about it. So I like him this week. Tyson and the rest of the Ravens running backs, it scares me that the coaches are coming out and kind of talking about, as Frankie was griping about with the Tampa Bay running backs, it sounds like they want to go very hard with the committee, which makes sense.
I mean, they did promote Freeman to the active roster,
Yeah.
which also how much of a slight is that to Lev Bell, that Lev Bell is the only running back that they've signed that is still on the practice squad. Latavius Murray right onto the active roster. Devonta Freeman promoted to the active roster. Lev Bell.
I want him to do good for one reason and one reason only. It's because I don't want Adam Gase to be right. Because he hated Lev Bell and he was anti-Lev Bell, and we blamed Lev Bell's downswing on him, and I want that to be true.
Sure.
But no, the Ravens running backs scare me this week, but if you want to roll them out in the flex, they run too much to some. There's going to be production to go around. I just think the ceilings for all of them is reduced with the fact that they're going to be spreading the ball around.
Sure.
Chiefs, you start the no-brainers. Don't get cute with it because they don't really like. Who are you going to start? Pringle? Whoever's going to catch that random touchdown. DeMarcus Robinson.
No, I agree.
Pringle,
it's like, you hear on a lot from a lot of people around the industry and a lot of different articles and shows. People are like, I think you can just start any Chiefs. Go ahead. Hardman, Pringle's no. You want to think you can start any Chiefs because of how they play the game until you just think about it, until you stop trying to galaxy brain it and look at it. It's like Mahomes only throws to two people.
Yeah.
So if you have one of those two people, great, you're gonna score a bunch of points. Everyone else, they're it's like you're rolling a D tier fantasy option.
Yeah.
Ugh. I would rather start Hunter Renfrow
than the wide receiver 2 for the Chiefs.
Yes.
That's how it's so gross to think about that, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Truth be told, Hunter Renfrow didn't look bad this week.
No, but that's why I picked Hunter Renfrow. Because he was doing some good things on the field. Right. He looked like he was a legitimate option for that Raiders team. Let's jump to the final matchup here. This one is one that I'm going to be watching with clenched butt cheeks as a man who drafted Aaron Rodgers. Please don't I'm just gonna sit here watching. Please don't hurt my fantasy team, Rodgers.
This is probably the most interesting game because everyone's expecting these two teams to turn back to what they are because they both were not what we expected.
Yep.
The Lions came out and scored 38 points.
Yep.
And the Packers put up the dud to end all duds.
Yep.
And
several of them had the worst games of their career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rodgers would have had a higher passer rating if he just spiked the ball every play.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. And then on top of that, it's the Lions have no players. They have two players and that's it. And so we figured it was they're going against the Niners defense, which should be able to just contain them, and they score a bunch of points. I expect this one, it should be a reversal, but if the Lions can keep scoring points, then I guess maybe Goff just knows how to get fantasy points out of people, which is just, he could just be the new Matt Ryan, where it's just he's not that great of a quarterback.
It's what we were saying all offseason, in that Goff's not a good quarterback, but he's a just fine quarterback.
Honestly, I like Goff as a starter this week if he's out there. The Packers secondary has
I don't, because I expect the Packers secondary. The Packers defense was better than last season than what they were on Sunday. Sunday just felt like a flat, like the entire Packers team just showed up not ready to play. You have to assume that with the long week for the Packers, that LaFleur is going to get this team in shape. Rodgers seemed non-concerned about it after the game. We've seen this out of Rodgers before. He comes out after bad games typically and drops an absolute torrent of points on the poor unsuspecting team that is opposing him. I don't like Goff in this one as a starter, especially because of the fact that it's a Monday game. You're forced into starting him. There's no pivots off if you change your mind late. It's nope, sorry, it's Monday night.
I could see it if the Lions can keep scoring points. I could see it, but The Packers feel like they're coming out, and they're coming out for blood. And this is a team that they play very well against.
Yep.
And they just got kicked in the teeth. Like,
Yep.
like it's not like this is like Rodgers being like, I'm anti the team, I'm going to sabotage the team. This is like everyone on this team just got embarrassed on TV, and they're the only thing people are talking about. So I expect this to just be a very big statement game for their big three. Like Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. I expect them all to have great games.
And keep in mind, Rodgers, for all of the narratives that people want to spin of Rodgers throwing the game because he hates the Packers or whatever, Rodgers wants to go to a new team, Nick. This season is his audition tape for whoever he's courting in the offseason.
Also, speaking to Aaron Jones, we saw what he did to Detroit last year, so I agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, no, I don't think that you can go wrong starting your big three Packers this week. I think Tunyon's a fine start. I'm not starting anyone else on this team aside from the big three and Tunyon until further notice. I want to see where the targets go. We didn't learn anything week one aside from Jordan Love's probably not that good. So, I'm still hesitant about starting your second tier Packers, but give all the main guys a full go. Lions side of the ball, it's basically just Hawk and Swift. I think you can start Jamal Williams.
Yeah, he got enough rope.
Jamal Williams picked up his Jamal Williams role from Green Bay and just brought it directly to Detroit, where he continued to get 40% of the touches and score realistic.
Yeah, if I need a flex this week, I'm fine rolling Jamal Williams out there.
Yeah. Okay. So I was gonna say I have 6 players that start in this game. I have 7.
Yeah.
There's 6 that are just no-brainer plays, There's 6 that are no-brainer plays, and there's 2 that I'm like maybe. Tunyon and Jamal are the only ones I even consider, and then past that, do not, just don't.
That's fair. I think I agree with that. Like the Lions wide receivers are still too much of a mess to figure out which ones are actually going to be worth starting, which ones are just pumpkins.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the week 2 slate, guys. You nervous about this week? Your fantasy prospects?
Only in one league.
Yeah. Well, you should stop breaking players, Frankie.
Yeah.
Listen, it's not my fault.
It's your fault.
I think that the house was built on a burial.
If you were a better person, your players would get hurt less.
Yeah. As always, I can do as much research or as little research as I want. I always start rough and have to fight my way back into the playoffs. It's never easy coasting for me. So, yeah, I am 0-1 in every league.
Sure.
Except for one, and that's the only league I'm not paying money in.
Sure.
So.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us today. We will be joining you guys again on Sunday to bring you our 3 and outs, our recaps and all that fun stuff. So tune in then to hear about our thoughts on the weekend, and I hope you all win your fantasy matchups except for you, Garrett.